So if we see on here, I've got well laid out news page. Everything has, I've got different headline styles. My biggest headline is at the top. It gets gradually smaller as it goes down. I've got a boxed off area. It's starting to look more like a natural newspaper, not just a collection of stories. However, if you look on here, you can see there's some short stories kind of scattered about. The purpose of knowing the rules is so that when someone looks at a page, they can quickly read and find information. Well, if I've got a lot of little stories scattered about, it's difficult to find those. It's difficult to look and see what's on the page. Making a news brief area gives you the ability to put them all together. And I just copied this straight from the book. So here's an example of a layout with news briefs. I'm still following my structure, but I'm fudging my guidelines just a little bit. And you can see all of my shorter stories are over here. All of my major, larger stories are on right-hand side. Let's see how I've set this up. First of all, notice that news brief has its own special headline in itself. Depending on what newspaper you work for, they call it different things. It could be local news, it can be short stories or something. It depends on what they want to call it. I'm just going to stick with news briefs with this one. Check out the column width. Obviously, these columns are a lot larger, a lot wider than the other one. Since we're working with 6 columns on here, a 6 column is pretty narrow by itself. So what I did was I'm taking up not a full 2 columns. 2 columns is pretty wide. But instead I pulled an extra guide right here that takes up about 3/4 of that second column. And so when I place the information onto it, my text boxes line up to that 3/4 news guide. So I'm taking up 1 and 3/4 of a column width, right? To add a little bit of extra emphasis, I've put in line going in between it, pulled a rule, and so now I've got a nice bit of white space between here. Without the line, it just looks like it's a big open white space. With the line, that kind of anchors everything and keeps it together with that. Now this is for a news brief. I can put things on the side here. Obviously that needs to be a little bit bigger. There we go. I can put things on the side. I can place them together. I can link up all of these, or I can jump these articles to another page. But it adds visual interest because now I've got all the short ones together, all the longer ones on the other side. Pretty cool. Doesn't always have to be on the left side. You can put news briefs on the left or the right-hand side. You can add photos to them. In this case, I just added some dummy photos. But the photos can look like this. If I needed to, they can work with or without the photographs. This is where you as the designer kind of get to work with this. If I wanted to, I could even add more white space. Maybe even change up the size of my text box and let these fill up just half columns. So now I've got more open space within this one. I'm still working with my grid structure, however. All of my other articles still fall under that 6 column grid width. It's only this one that I'm almost making bastard measure out of 1 column by itself. But it works. Works really, really well. It's starting to look more and more like a real newspaper from here. The final way you can set up news briefs, instead of on the left or the right, is you can also put them at the top or the bottom of the page. They still need to have their own separate kind of headline. And if you're going to put them at the top and bottom of the page, especially if they're flowing in one article, we're going to set this up a little bit differently. First of all, check out the way I've done this headline. If ever you have white text on a dark or a black background, this is called reverse type. So all I've done is just done a reverse type for this one. Everything else is just normal type. Second, when I set up my articles, before we've been putting a text box for your headline and a text box for your body copy. Down here, we're placing everything in one solid text box. Why do you think I would want to do all this in one text box instead of having individual boxes for every headline and everything else? What would be the advantage of that?
Keep everything aligned.
Keep it all aligned? That's part of it? Yeah? Wait, why align? What else did you say?
Just so nothing shifts.
So nothing shifts? What else? I mean, I can keep it aligned and they're all in different different boxes.
And so it flows continuously through the column.
Yeah. The thing about it is, it's the flowing of it. If I was to go in here and my editor says, hey, don't make that 6 columns, I need you to make it 5 columns. Well, if I've got 20 different text boxes to deal with, I'm going to have to resize and reconfigure 20 different boxes. If I place them all in the same box, all I've got to do now is just readjust the number of columns that I'm working with, and the text flows accordingly. All I got to do is worry about the formatting of everything that's inside of it. Pretty cool. Also, if I needed to add on or to change any of these, I can go back in, start deleting things or adding on to there, and then all I have to do is adjust the end of it. I don't have to reposition 100 different boxes. So if you're going to do news briefs that's inside of a page, usually the top and the bottom, I highly recommend just copying and pasting the headline, format the headline, copy and paste in the body copy, format the body copy, all in one text box. The other thing to consider about these news briefs, especially this way, be very aware of any budding headlines. You never want to have, let's see, let's make it 5 columns. There we go. Here's another problem. I've got a headline down here and a headline up here. That's obviously not going to fly very well. I've got to adjust my text accordingly to push that onto the other side. I've also got some headlines. Let's see if it does it at 4. Not too bad. If I've got headlines that are butting up with each other, let's see if I can, if I say took off, that's not going to work, is it? Tell you what, we'll just copy and paste that in there. There we go. If I have 2 headlines that are side by side, they're starting to butt against each other. Same way for here, they're starting to butt against each other. So you would have to adjust the size or the placement of whatever articles that you have so that they're staggered just right so that nothing will run into each other. So there's 6 columns, that's looking pretty good. There it is, nothing's beside it, nothing's beside it, nothing's beside each one from there. It is a bit tricky. Butting heads happens a lot more often than you think. But paying attention to them, being able to change up their styles, being able to mask them off tends to help. Usually you can't box in news brief areas. You want to keep those a little bit separate. Cool? All right. So that's news briefs. You're also going to give me some examples of news briefs in your page layout. News briefs with photographs, news briefs without photographs. Hey, here's a quick tip for you. If you lay out your news briefs without photographs, that's one page. Copy that page, throw some photographs in there. Now you've got a page of news briefs with photographs. Real easy. Don't make any more work for yourself. Cool? For today, let's talk about the rules. I'm going to pause.